What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai, an extension of Anime Senpai PH channel. All pieces of information are derived from the light novel. In today's video, we will continue Chapter 6, Volume 7 of the light novel, entitled Gods and Demon Lords. This video is the 8th part of Chapter 6 in our Tensura spoiler video series. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, feel free to check out the links in the description below. Now, let's get to the video. The trio laughed and said that their knowledge had been built and refined over centuries, and it would never lose out to the brute force of some arrogant monster horde. The laughter echoed above them, but Rimuru was too busy keeping Hinata alive. She had a temporary heart, made from his own body, but it took up a ton of magicules. Rimuru wasn't used to pulling this off, and it wasn't exactly a very compatible donor organ for her. So it wasn't working as well as what Rimuru concocted for Mulan. Then Shion charged forward, ready to push all Rimuru's concerns away. Shion told them to shut up, and that meant nothing in the face of her Gorikimaru version too. Shion wasn't making much sense, but she made a mad dash for the clergy, muscle memory winning out over her brain. It would have struck most people as idiotic, but Shion was on another level at this moment. One clergy mocked Shion and called her imbecile, but he was suddenly interrupted by an audible ripping sound out from the air in front of the sneering clergy. The clergy couldn't believe that she was going to break down the magic circle. They realized they had to release the magic circle. Shion's nonsensical attack was pure brute force, something that didn't care much about elements or attributes at all. Rimuru understood from Raphael Sensei that Shion appeared to be using guarantee results, part of her master chef skill to alter the space around her. Rimuru realized that this was just crazy. He could only hope that Shion didn't start using that stuff on him. According to Raphael Sensei, while the possibility was slim, the subject Shion's attack might be effective against Rimuru as well. Rimuru advised himself to make sure he never pissed her off again. This had taught Rimuru all over again how amazing Shion was. But sadly, even that couldn't stop the 7 days clergy's attack.
Report. Attack incoming. Their broad-range annihilation attack was complete.
The report made Rimuru a little nervous.
Report. It is not a problem. The magic circle has already been analyzed.
The cool, refreshing voice of Raphael calmed Rimuru's frayed nerves. This magic circle looked kind of complex to Rimuru, but he guessed it was child's play to the wise master here. Rimuru hated to dent the clergy's confidence and all, but he guessed a riled Raphael could still outwit them.
Prepare to meet your doom. Trinity break.
3 voices chanted in unison to launch the spell, but all that effort was already in vain.
Report. Relaunching the ultimate skill Beelzebub.
Just as the professor reported that to Rimuru, Beelzebub swallowed up all the droplets of murderous light raining down from above. In a moment, they were all gone. This thing, when set to full blast, was a real monster. Even the paladins stared wide-eyed at Rimuru. They were shocked at the sight of all those missile blasts disappearing before their eyes. Rimuru wondered how come he still had Beelzebub when he had already sacrificed it during his fight with Hinata. But he understood from Raphael that the ultimate skill Beelzebub, Lord of Gluttony, was indeed sacrificed, but a copy had been backed up, so it wasn't a problem to reactivate. Rimuru told Raphael that it should have told him about this crap. Rimuru thought he had lost that thing forever. The professor acted like this was all settled history, but Rimuru wasn't sure he was willing to accept that.
Report. Rise in holy force detected. Main attack incoming.
Rimuru thought the last strike was the main one.
Face your ruinous end, Demon Lord. Trinity disintegration.
Rimuru panicked because Beelzebub wasn't going to cut it now.
Report. It is not a problem. Invoke absolute defense from the ultimate skill Uriel, Lord of Vows? Yes, no.
Rimuru was glad there's the professor. He told Raphael that was another yes. And again, something didn't seem right. But even as Rimuru pondered this, the first absolute defense wave activated. It was a single, thin, transparent layer covering his skin. This was all it was, and this was all it took to perfectly disable Trinity Disintegration. That was definitely the first time Rimuru used that move. He had been using multilayer barrier up to now, not absolute defense. Rimuru took advantage of his mind accelerate speed up to finally ask Raphael the question on his mind. He asked Raphael why it hadn't activated that earlier. Rimuru could have blocked that strike on Hinata with that thing. The response was enough to push his frustration to the brink.
Understood. This is because the ultimate skill Uriel's absolute defense may still be penetrated by spiritual particles on occasion. As a result, it was determined that invoking it would be meaningless.
Raphael made it sound like common sense. The behavior of the spiritual particles that magicules were made of was apparently difficult to predict. They ignored time and space as they move around, cutting straight through well near any barrier. The near-random elements that control their movements, the forces of nature that governed over these particles, made it impossible for absolute defense to handle them unless you knew how they worked. And yet, here Rimuru was, perfectly safe. After that barrier just trounced Trinity Disintegration, he wondered if Raphael had fully predicted things this time.
Understood. In the previous Melt Slash attack, Beelzebub both cancelled out the strike and invoked predation on it. This made it possible to gather enough information to successfully recognize the random elements involved. As a result, it became possible to predict and defend against holy attacks. In addition, you have also obtained the Holy Sword Scale Melt Slash.
Rimuru asked Raphael if that meant it had sucked up Hinata's sword on purpose back there. But Raphael became silent. Rimuru was annoyed and told Raphael to stop climbing up on him. He could totally picture Raphael reacting like it was hiding something. Its silence was telling him everything he had to know. Rimuru knew that Raphael wasn't the type to take dangerous risks, but he wondered if he could have survived a Melt Slash blow without having to cancel it out with Beelzebub.
Understood. Of course. You lost a great deal of magical energy, but your material body could have been instantly reconstructed with infinite regeneration.
Rimuru asked Raphael then what it was so freaked out about. Rimuru wasn't convinced that Raphael just wanted to consume Melt Slush so it could analyze it. But Raphael seemed getting better and better at dodging his questions. Still no response from Raphael. But Rimuru supposed he would have wanted it. He would have wanted to withstand that attack and use it himself. He wondered if it had taken that moment of desire to act upon it that quickly.
Negative. I exist only for the sake of my master.
Raphael was pretty fast replying to that one. Rimuru said thanks. He advised Raphael to keep up the good work but try not to keep any secrets from him. Thus, within the dilated time, Raphael and Rimuru bickered with each other. Their entire conversation ended in a single real-world instant. The clergy, meanwhile, couldn't believe what they saw. They said it was impossible, and such a ridiculous feat should never happen. As far as they knew, there could be no creature in this world who could withstand a direct blast of disintegration. All three of them were mightily confused, and Rimuru could see why. Even he thought it was kinda freaky, and he cast it. The ultimate in holy magic, cast in triplicate no less, was blocked by Rimuru like a spit wad. If Rimuru were them, he probably wouldn't want to accept it either. But that's reality for the clergy. It's what they got for making Rimuru their enemy. Alright, now it's our turn. Benimaru, Soe, and Shion nodded. Benimaru had a ball of flickering black flame in his hand. He told the clergy that their fancy magic circle seemed to have disappeared and they could not withstand this a second time. The 7 days clergy visibly recoiled at the sight of this. Their hand was fully played, and they had nothing left to counter with. Shion flashed a fearsome smile as she sized up her prey. Shion told them they couldn't escape, and they must prepare to die, calling them pile of garbage. Soe was silent, watching the clergy's movements with an unblinking eye. Alvis and Sophia, the lycanthropiers, were watching over the paladins, making sure none of them stepped out of line. There were unlikely to be any more real threats among them, but no harm in being sure. Not like any would-be assassin among them could do much of anything now. The 7 Days trio had now been herded into a single location, but they still refused to give up. One clergy member warned them to think this over carefully, because they were the guardians of humankind, and if they killed them, the followers of the god Luminous would not take it sitting down. Another clergy member added that Luminous's rage would burn all of them to ashes, but the third member told them that they would step back this time. Now that they knew Rimuru's party were not evil, he was sure that talks would proceed smoothly with the Western nations, and that they would be good neighbors to each other, with a mix of intimidation and flattery. The clergy deigned to negotiate with them. This was really starting to piss Rimuru off. It was time, he thought, to end this. I seem to have caused quite a lot of trouble for you, Demon Lord Rimuru. But then a cold, bracing voice echoed over them, as a massive gate appeared, cutting through the air. The door opened, revealing a beautiful young woman. Between her unique silver hair and her heterochromatic eyes, there was no mistaking it. She was the Demon Lord Valentine herself, and Rimuru probably didn't need to ask why she came. The clergy were shocked. Valentine asked the clergy what they were doing in a place like this. The clergy visibly withered in her presence, cowering in fear. Then they kneeled before her. Rimuru guessed that Valentine had actually been the god Luminous this whole time. The realization struck him dumb. That's it for this video, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and click the bell notification icon so you will never miss the upcoming continuation of Tensura spoiler video series. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shout out to the top 10 commenters on my previous video. Shout out to Rival Sakil, Luke Devilux, Peanut, Kuwan Shuan, Abdul Fatawu, Amaral Tempest, Rambaru, Kichu SR, Leo Victor Adananeda, Canaria MLBB, and last but not the least, shout out to Venom Legend. I'll see you guys in the next video.